Hi, my name is Goldman. I'm the director and founder of Goldman and Associates. Our firm has a primary focus on family law issues here in Michigan, and today we're continuing our video series designed to educate and inform the public, so please subscribe to our channel. You know, when we talk about custody, we have said many times before that the court takes into account what is in the best interest of the children, and in order to analyze that, basically looks at about a dozen factors, and it weighs out the factors. And in some scenarios, one factor weighs more than another factor, so even though one person may prevail on this factor, the other one may be more influential to the relationship with the child, and therefore that may carry more weight. And the court goes through this complicated analysis and takes a lot of testimony, evidence, and all that stuff. One of the factors is the presence of domestic violence in the household. So the question that is often raised to me is, what is the impact of that in the custody, and isn't it dangerous to have that to be so impactful on custody when domestic violence charges can be easily manipulated? Arguments that the parties may have could easily cause someone to call the police. Could even be a neighbor calling the police without even one of the parties calling the police. And all of a sudden the police are at your house. The child's crying, something went on. The police feel they have to separate the parties. Somebody gets arrested, somebody gets charged. It could be a mountain out of a molehill, but all of a sudden we got domestic violence involved, and now we're in a custody case, and what role does it play? And can the domestic violence charges be manipulated so that they exist, so that you can use it as leverage? And of course, the answer is yeah. We see a lot of these trumped up domestic violence charges that are clearly being used so that one party can play the system. I want to talk about not necessarily that case, but how it impacts the overall analysis. I mean, the court is wise to the fact that the charges could be trumped up. The court well knows that. So the court has to look at it very carefully and see, is it going to weigh heavily? It'll have some weight, but how much weight will it have in the best interest analysis? Now, I'll tell you this. The court will look at a legitimate domestic violence charge, no question about it. It's one of the factors. But if the child is not a victim of the violence, that is to say the violence wasn't targeted at the child, that's certainly going to have a different level of weight than a case where the child has been the victim of the domestic violence. You see, in that situation, that's going to weigh very heavily in the custody analysis. If the idea is, I was the victim and therefore give me the custody because if he hit me, he could hit the child. If she threw something at me, she could throw something at the child. This kind of thing, if that's what it is, the court's going to take a much more careful look at the legitimacy of those claims, because it's going to be sensitive to the fact that there is a possible undertone to the whole thing. There's a possible manipulation going on. And so therefore, the court's going to look at it. So the short answer is, will there be an impact on the custody analysis with a domestic violence charge? Sure, it will be impactful. But how impactful it is going to determine on who the victim is and whether or not the court honestly believes in good faith that we got a legitimate domestic violence charge. If you have any questions about that, reach out. We'll be glad to help you out.